And talking about the peace plan and talking about the conversation, one of the biggest conversations when it comes to peace plan is annexation of the territories in the West Bank. And that's something that Benyowitz and both Prime Minister have disagreed with in the past of the way they're going to do or not do it. So do you think as a unity government, that's even going to happen? And will there be any annexation of settlements in the West Bank?
If there is an agreement and a green line from Washington, D.C., they will do it. Gantz himself said that once it is agreed upon and coordinated with our best friend and ally, and of course we need this coordination because, as you know, once we do that, all the hypocrites, cynics, all the Israeli Jewish adversaries all over the world will attack us politically. So we will need the great cover from the United States, whether it's in the United Nations, in the Security Council, and in any other international forum. So the idea is that once we have a full agreement with Washington, this will be done, and this is agreed by both parties.
Okay. So another question that a little bit towards your personal life of what you do. So as we said, you are involved with organizations that you started called the Truth About Israel. And this new government is all about public relations and working with private entities. We've seen actually, for example, many countries are working with private entities to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. But what do you think that the importance of your organization, the Truth About Israel and Hasbara, will value towards this new government?
Well, first of all, we must say that the government of Israel, all governments of Israel are at a disadvantage when it comes to Hasbara, PR, because we are outnumbered by 22 Arab countries, 57 Muslim countries, and the Palestinians' constant and well-financed campaign of incitement and lies against Israel. BS is just one example in the campuses in the United States, but also much beyond that. And the government cannot do it alone. This is why they need to have authentic voices that come from the nonprofit world. Myself, when I retired from government, I thought that this is something that I can do and help, and this is why I established the Truth About Israel, which basically dispels all the lies of the Palestinians, actually telling the truth about Israel, about why we are here, about the conflict, about the Israeli conduct, seeking for peace. We're not really meeting any arm for peace from the other side, and many, many other things. Since we have the BDS concentrating on campuses, the Truth About Israel is also concentrating on, not exclusively, but also concentrating on campuses. And the idea here is to cover as many campuses and as many students as possible. And since physically it is not to do, we decided to move into the virtual world and through the internet, covering and actually seeking and finding the students before they even get to the campuses. So they can find us on their laptops or on their iPhones or on their computers. And we have very, very short, informative clips that anyone can understand, which are also indisputable. And we've had a lot of success where millions have been watching our material. Also, we supply this content to all other organizations. It's available online. We don't need the credit. We don't need anything, but we just would like it to be spread and disseminated throughout the internet. We have millions now that watch it. We would like tens of millions to watch it, because the idea, Jake, is actually to turn the table over the lying entities of the Palestinians, and to really level the playing fields for Israel, especially on the internet, because this is where social media, where everybody is, and this is what we do. And if I can just ask all the participants here to go into our website, which is very easy, thetruthaboutisrael.org. yupacfellowship.il, and they will see all the material, and they can share it, send likes, and this is how you really rise up in the hierarchy of the web to counter the nefarious Palestinian and the Iranian sites.
So you've had such an incredible career as a public diplomat. Right now you're in the private sector, but is there any chance that you ever go back to politics again?
Well, they say never. And, you know, in Israel, we have here almost a tradition of recycling our political echelons. I cannot tell you for sure, nobody can predict the future, but I'll tell you what is the principle. Of course, I will not say no to coming and serving the country again, but I will do it only on one condition, that I know that I can be useful, that I can make a change, and if I can make a difference, certainly I will do it.
So we talked at the beginning that you're one of my professors and you've lectured at YU for the past few years. So can you talk about your experience of teaching in an American institution, especially one like Yeshiva University?
Yeah, well, I started with Yeshiva University 6 years ago, and initially it was just a one-time gig. I thought just 1 year to try it as a visiting professor, as the Reinhardt family visiting professor for just 1 semester. And I was so impressed by the students, by the excellence of the institution of YU, by the dedication of the faculty and the leaders of YU, but mostly by the students who really come with a mission to be better Jews, to be better persons, to be persons of consequence, that they can really contribute to their communities, to their countries. And of course, Yeshiva University, in my mind, and I think in many minds as well, the best Jewish Zionist university outside of the state of Israel. It's the #1 university outside of Israel, and I found it to be not only true, but very, very, I would say, inspiring.
And then our final question is for our UK members. So what's Israel's relationship with the UK, and what do you think the current government is how they're going to work with the United Kingdom?
Well, I think we overcame a real major obstacle with anti-Semitism in the highest political offices, I would say, the opposition, though, in the United Kingdom. Well, we'll mention his name, you know, because Mr. Corbyn, who led the Labour Party, did not mince any words, attacking Israel and the Jewish people as well. I think since he is gone, we are going to see a new relationship with the Labour Party. Of course, we are not interfering in any country's political affairs, just as we appreciate very much bipartisan support in the United States from Republicans and Democrats. We very much appreciate cooperation and support from both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party, and of course, in the Liberal Party as well. So now, since we have this obstacle of Corbyn removed, I believe that we are really on a fast track to renew our good relations with the Labour. With the government of the UK, we have had wonderful relationship for the last 15 or 20 years. Great prime ministers who were great friends of Israel, starting with Tony Blair, and of course we had Gordon Brown, and now Boris Johnson. Also, we look at the economic activities between England and the UK and Israel. It's also flourishing. Of course, this was before the corona. R&D cooperation is also moving, and Britain or the UK, being a major member in NATO, this strategic and technological cooperation and military cooperation between Israel and the UK is very important. and we'll continue.
Okay, so thank you, Ambassador. So I'm going to open this up to our audience. So our first question is from Ruben Atia, a student at Yeshiva University. Hi, Ruben. So his question is, the past elections have shown the limits of instability of the electoral system, which led numerous industries impacted by the virus, including the defense, not to receive any budget from the government because nothing could get voted on. Do you think that the electoral reform could happen, thus changing the way elections take place in Israel?
Well, thank you, Ruben. Electoral reform is very much in need. I was a major supporter of electoral reform long time ago. And the idea was really to move more towards the American system where you have direct elections of the prime minister, not having to go through lists and through an intermediary like in the Knesset. Also, I believe that if we had regional elections and not just having the whole country as one district, which also does not really bode for easy conduct, governability, predictability, would have been much better to do it on a district by district, just like in the United States, and then not only the people can directly vote for their members of Knesset and the prime minister, and that would make much better politicians because and politicians are quite good and honest, but some of them can behind all the histories of the parties and the bureaucracies. So by having to really came what makes better politicians and leaders in my mind. And secondly, we should throw away maybe the coalition system. So with direct elections and changing the rules that the largest party that has won the majority or the plurality of the seats in the Knesset, this will be the party that forms the government. So actually these are very, very simple changes that can be done. Will they be done? I'm not very optimistic because right now, the smaller parties, the ones that make a coalition building much more complex than it is, will not want to do it because it's not their interest.
Okay, so our next questions come from Rafi Isler. So Rafi says, hi, Ambassador. Will the new coalition be stable? How important is this bringing about a more united Israeli society?
Well, thank you, Rafi. I think this is very important. As I mentioned before, the last 3 elections, successive elections in a span of 18 months were really brutal on the unity of the people. And of course, the attacks, political attacks, were not helpful for solidarity among the people. Certainly when we have now this coronavirus, and I'm not sure that the 2 major parties would have come together had it not been for the corona emergency, and really they preferred the interests of the country on the narrow interest of their parties. And especially I have to say this about Benny Gantz, who had to break up his own party that he ran with, those who did not want to join the government, those who preferred for whatever reasons and gave all kinds of pretexts, but they preferred politicking and very, very partisan issues which would not have been helpful. So I would say, first of all, the government has a good chance to serve for the entire 3 years. This is what the contract, the agreement is for 3 years, 1.5 years under Prime Minister Netanyahu, the second 1.5 years under the Prime Minister Benny Gantz. And they will have the capacity, first of all, to meet all the challenges. There are enormous economic challenges coming as we reel out from the corona situation. But there is also something which is maybe less palpable, and this is the spirit and the solidarity and the less friction between different sectors of the Israeli societies that many raw, I would say, ends were exposed. And now they're going to be stitched over and making the Israeli country and society much better and stronger.
Thank you, Ambassador. So our next question is coming from Ben. Just a little context. We know that Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Trump, have had such a strong relationship with each other that we haven't seen in the past. And the so-called now most probably Democratic nominee for president of 2020 will be former Vice President Joe Biden. So how do you think if President Biden is elected, his relationship will be with the Bibi Netanyahu administration or the General Gantz administration?
Well, first of all, it's not a secret that President Trump has been so far the best president ever for Israel and for the Israel-United States relationship, which are also very important for the United States. As for Biden, I have known him, and I know him personally when he was a member of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate. And then I met him in different capacities and meetings. And he's a very decent guy. I think he is very much pro-Israel. He is a veteran of many years of American politics. He worked with all Israeli prime ministers since Golda Meir. He told me that how he met Golda Meir here in the 70s of last century. So he is very much versed with all the complexities and with the challenges that Israel has, the security challenges mostly. So I believe that his heart is in the right place, and as much as he can exercise this, we will see a friend in the White House. But what is really important to note is where the Democratic Party is going. Because if, God forbid, we will see a further move to anti-Israel policies, it may be harder for Biden to practice and continue the same policies that Trump had towards us. Also, another factor which is very important, and this is the day-to-day life. And here you need your advisors. And for instance, if Biden will rely mostly on former Obama advisors, that does not bode very well, and friction can come again. One great light here is, of course, the chief of staff and of Biden. Tony, which is a great friend of Israel. And if he is there, I'm sure relationship will be good.
Okay, so our next question is coming from Josh. So Ambassador, he says, from your experience in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what reforms do you think need to be taken to see that the ministry becomes more efficient?
Well, this is also very simple, budgets. The foreign ministry has been dried out from budgets, and this did not allow the ministry to take any action. They had only enough money to just keep the buildings, the embassies running all over the world, and just to pay the bills and the salaries. And this is not enough. Also, we need more diplomats, especially in places like Asia, where we are developing relationship, in Latin America, in Africa, and of course in Europe and the United States as well. But we do need to have a leader of the ministry. I hope that the next foreign minister will be a champion for the foreign ministry to bring it up to par with the other ministries, so that it will be taken into account, especially when it comes to making policies. The Foreign Office has many great experts. They have the exposure and the diplomatic presence all over the world, and they are invaluable in advising the government, in taking positions, and of course in implementing them as well. So we need the Foreign Ministry, first of all, to be including in the most important and delicate decision-making. First, for instance, how to implement the annexation according to the Trump's plan. And secondly, they need the budgets so they can recruit more diplomats and have better professionals and experts in the field.
Okay, so as we all know, one of the biggest crises is happening in our day is the COVID-19 pandemic. And Israel seemed to be on the forefront, as they usually are when it comes to these things. So what is Israel on the back end of the government towards fighting?
I would say pretty much it was very much paying off the, let's say, the extra carefulness that we had a very good experience last in Purim. We did not, and of course in Purim, it's a very happy holiday. As you know, people were gathered together, people were celebrating, and we saw the dire results 2 weeks later with really a storm of corona cases. So since then, things were taken back, and now we have flattened the curve. It wasn't easy, but it was done. So here the government took some measures, and the discipline of all the Israelis was also very important. Solidarity was very important. And I must say also that the high-tech sector is amazing, because this coronavirus unleashed all the innovation and creativity and dedication of our high-tech sector, working from biotech companies, working on vaccines and easy testing and available testing, all the way to monitoring and to detecting, even using some military technology. For instance, radar technology can be used to detect miles away people with, let's say, with fever or people with other symptoms, so you don't have to really be close to them, and many, many other ways. Also, the country itself was reorganized, is still reorganizing the states, like just in YU, working virtually through Zoom. Business meetings are taking place through Zooms in a gradual way. And hopefully, if we will not see another explosion or peak in coronavirus cases, I hope that in 2 months' time we'll be over it.
Perfect. So, Ambassador, we are now also live on Facebook. So everyone who's joining us on Facebook, welcome. And thank you everyone who's been on our chat so far. So the next question is going to be coming from Charlie. He's in Oxford. So he asks, given your work highlighting the Iranian threat, do you think that Turkey harbors similar nuclear and regional destabilization's ambitions?
I would say the short answer is yes. And Turkey has changed totally its policies and its political culture since Erdogan took over in 2002, 2003. Turkey, which is a NATO member still, used to be a staunch ally of the Western democracies, certainly of Israel. But unfortunately, Erdogan, which gained power and made some reforms that actually kept him like almost a czar in staying there almost forever. But he is an Islamist, and these are his persuasion. And basically the party that he represents, the AKP, is the Turkish Islamic Brotherhood. This is their ideology, this is their policies, and this is what they are campaigning on. We see how they are veering away from Western Europe and moving towards dictatorship, whether it's in Russia and other countries, also with Iran. And it is another country to watch to make sure that they will not do anything which is and also against their own commitment. Turkey is a member of the NPT, which is the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So they are bound by this treaty not to ever develop nuclear military capabilities. So far, we have not detected anything, but certainly we see that the Turks trying, under Erdogan, trying to be the hegemon in the region, and many times they're trying to do it on the expense of Israel, and of course, we cannot let it happen.
Thank you, Ambassador. So we have a follow-up from Josh, who asked about the foreign ministry's reforms. So he says, how do we ensure that people go and join the ministry instead of going towards the private sector?
Well, that's a very good question. It is very hard for the government to compete with the private sector in terms of fringe benefits, in terms of salaries and money. What they can offer is really a great satisfaction and a great challenge that you do something for the greater good, and you're looking at the bigger picture, taking care of your people and country. Certainly, better salaries would work, but this is not the main thing. The main thing is really to give them the opportunities and the tools with the toolbox to be able to work and to initiate things and to have projects and really take care of them and their families when they go abroad. It's not easy to uproot a family and kids and move like almost a gypsy from one country to another every few years. So there's also needing of a very tight-knit social welfare network that supports the families, and all these things are coming now into fruition, and we see it. There's still a lot of volunteers, and it is a volunteer a position to serve in the government, especially in the foreign ministry, and we see that the cadets courses are filled, and basically on every let's say on every applicant that is being accepted after all the testing, there are 10 who are not making it. So we still see that there is a lot of desire by the Israeli youngsters to serve the country also as Israeli diplomats.
Thank you. So our next question is, we know that the unity government's happening. Do you think that Naftali Bennett will join and be a minister of some sort in this new government?
That's a good question. I hope so. You know, Naftali Bennett and Bibi Netanyahu, it's a love-hate relations. It's not a secret. Maybe more hate-hate relations, and it's too bad to see more fragmentations in you know in the same camp. Since the government that will now be established basically carries the same ideology and policies of Yamina and Naftali Bennett, especially in terms of the annexation. I don't see any reason why they will not join. But this is only one consideration. And then the other consideration is I would say, which is unfortunate, but it's matter of egos and positions to see how many ministries they will get, what kind of kuved, you know what it is, and senior positions they will have in the Knesset and all that. This is also part of the equation. It's too early to say, and they will have to meet eye to eye, both Bibi Netanyahu and Naftali Bennett, and hopefully sort this out.
Well, Ambassador, it's just to end off, last question. Do you have some optimistic for the new unity government, some ending words to end this off with some good optimistic stuff?
Yes, I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic based on the very, very, I would say, raw data. Israel is today a country with great high-tech infrastructure. Today, we even have sufficient energy resources, you know, with natural gas, and more than that, we have great dedicated people, and the youth and the military. Strategic capabilities are great, economics, and now with the government coming together, I hope also that the social differences will be now come down, and we will have a much better unity among the population and among different sectors of the society. But most of all, since we are back in our home and in our homeland, nobody can take us ever out of this. And this is something that we all have to remember. We are all partners in this. We're all brothers in ours, whether it's the Jews in Israel or Jews anywhere else, in London or Washington or Los Angeles or anywhere else. This is all our land. We work together to keep it, to make it flourish, and the Jewish spirit will never, ever be extinguished. And this is why I am very optimistic.
Well, Ambassador, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, even if it's over the webinar. So thank you everyone for joining us. Again, this webinar was sponsored by the Pinsker Centre from England. So please like them on Facebook, and also YUPAC, the Yeshiva University Political Action Club, the forefront of fighting Yeshiva University to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. So Ambassador, on behalf of Pinsker and YUPAC, thank you for taking the time. And thank you everyone for joining us. And look out for more webinars on the Pinsker's Facebook page.
Shalom.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Shalom to all of you from the State of Israel.